it's Torry, and we are here with a very special episode. Teddy is back. Teddy has been a guest twice on the pod. If you've been here a while, you'll know him. I'm sure you love him. And he reached out to me after what's been happening in Bachelor Nation, especially this week, but honestly throughout this entire season. And he wanted to chat. So I thought I would love to have this conversation. And I think that a lot of people in the RTBP community would too. So Teddy, welcome back to Ready to Be Petty.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I wish it was on a brighter note, but I think it's really important that we had this discussion.
I know, because obviously I talk to you a lot, like throughout the week and
Mhm.
stuff, but
Yeah.
after we recorded in the fall, I was like, okay, well, obviously, like, come back on in the spring, like we'll
hmm
talk Bachelor,
Yeah.
it'll be fun, we'll shoot the shit as
hmm
per usual. But
Yeah.
but then a lot went down in Bachelor Nation, and you kind of reached out. Why did you want to talk this week?
Yeah, I think just because I remember you asked me a question back on our last podcast during Tasha's season before it ended. Do we think that this is turning over a new leaf for the franchise that's had so much controversy in the past and sweeping stuff under the rug? And I said, check back with me in 5 to 6 seasons. Let's see where we are. And I reached out because it was more evident as ever with the Rachel and Chris Harris interview that we're going to be talking about today and so on, that Tasha and Matt were simply a band-aid on the franchise, seen as being band-aids temporarily to fix something that they were getting heat from not doing, and they thought it was going to go away. But as we saw, when Chris Harrison doesn't have his little publicist or someone monitoring what he says, that he sinks his own ship. A little saying I've always been taught, a lot of my family is actually from the South, is whatever is done in the dark is going to come to light, and Chris Harrison exposed everything. um,
100%.
yeah.
So, like, we have been Bachelor fans. I've been a Bachelor fan, unfortunately, since day one. You jumped in for Rachel Lindsay's season, and we've
Mhm.
historically seen throughout the entire franchise the racist undertones or like overt racism.
Microaggressions, Spanish music whenever Brian's talking to Rachel, things like that that are very, very, set the tone for people that may not even have exposure to a Hispanic or Spanish person.
We've seen it, but especially this year, there was like more call to action and trying to hold the ABC and like its network, etc., accountable for the TV show, because we want to watch something that we feel good about and that represents our values. And like, I'm just sick of putting time and effort and money like covering stuff that doesn't align with my values, like from influencers to
Yeah,
TV
that's fair.
shows, etc. Like I want to support people that are like good people, like just people.
Yeah, yeah.
So in June of 2020, there was more calls to action for the Bachelor franchise to diversify its cast, usually predominantly white, to show more diverse storylines, have BIPOC contestants like have their love stories shown, to not cast bigots and racists and terrible people like we've seen with Garrett, we've seen it with Lee, we've seen misogynists like Chad throughout the whole
Yeah.
franchise. And we get Tasha for season 16 with a more diverse cast of men. And then we get Matt, season 25 of The Bachelor, with I think 65% of the cast was made up of women of color. So this was like quote unquote groundbreaking. But then this season has been such a letdown. I know that you stopped watching after the first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, why did you stop watching?
So for me, something rubbed me the wrong way about Matt when I finally got to hear him talk. Not that from what I'm hearing about this season, you guys are barely getting to even know him because it's so much focused on the bullying and people being called escorts and all this, left, right, whatever. But it didn't intrigue me. It didn't make me want to watch. So I just took a step back. I've always said this too. This trends on the bullying. I can watch women fight on TV anywhere. That's not groundbreaking. It's not been done. Even on the last podcast, I said I prefer the Bachelorette season to the Bachelor seasons because it's a little bit different, a little bit different vibe. Women are put against each other every day, naturally in the workplace, at this everywhere. It's not groundbreaking to me. It's not interesting TV. It's been done at this point. There's going to be a Corinne. There's going to be a Victoria. Peter's season or this season. There's always going to be that one. It's been done before. It's been done before.
Totally.
So I checked out. I couldn't do it. I had no desire to.
And this season has been so disappointing for so many ways because you're totally right. Like, all we've seen is this overly produced drama that we've seen a trillion gazillion times on every season of The Bachelor. It is so boring. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been done. And you're right. There's 100 million TV shows that do the exact same thing. So it really has felt like a season from the past. And we've seen that there's been interesting conversations throughout the TV show that have just been cut, have been left on the cutting room floor, which is so confusing because I thought that Bachelor Nation, and probably again, this is giving them way too much credit, they were starting to realize from Tayshia's season that we want to see these real conversations about people's like real lives and their like lived experiences. And then that has just not happened this season.
I think a huge problem is that 2020 and Black Lives Matter and just the BIPOC lies, etc., is not a trend. It's not something you can hop onto and say, this is trendy, let's have a black lead. And I was so skeptical with how they presented it to us. Like having Tayshia replace Claire seemed very interesting timing wise and all that stuff. It was very evident what they were trying to do. But before I spoke on it, I just sat back, and it's just very clear. Like it's just very clear what they're doing now, and I'm happy that we have, now instead of just Rachael being that person, now Tayshia has her podcast. I think it was called a clickbait that she went to immediately and spoke on it. Now we, that wouldn't have happened before. We just would have had maybe Rachael.
That's true. And like, we can talk about that when we get into this week's events, but just having to put all of this burden and all of this pressure and emotional labor on like the black contestants of Bachelor Nation, having to educate their predominantly white audience and like white counterparts on the TV show, which we know is obviously unfair. So let's chat about this week. So like looking at my notes being like, where do we even start? So
yeah, where do you start?
I guess like even taking it back further from this week, but this happens every season where the cast is announced, their like bios go up online, and then the internet detectives do a little bit of digging just to see who these people are. And at the beginning of the season, people found information about Rachael. So some examples of things they found online were she was liking photos of her friends standing in front of a Confederate flag. She was appropriating other people's cultures for Halloween. Her voting records showed that she was voting Republican. And there was a TikTok that went viral expressing this. No comment from Bachelor Nation or from Rachael at this point. A second TikTok comes out where she's at a sorority party, and it is a Old South antebellum party in 2018 where they, like her sorority and other fraternities, go to like a plantation and celebrate the Old South. So these came out, and then again, we didn't hear from Rachael or Bachelor, like the producers or the network, etc. Fast forward a little bit. Rachel Lindsay, who we know and love, she's a co-host on Extra, and she catches up with Chris Harrison. They interview after the episode airs on Monday night. So Tuesday morning, she's chatting with Chris Harrison, and she just throws out a candid question. What are you thinking about Rachael Kirkconnell? Like, and these things that are like surfacing about her. And he responds in like a 14-minute segment, basically saying that the people that posted that are the woke police, that we need to give Rachael grace, and yeah, we just need
Time. Give
give
her
her
time.
time.
Give her time. To think of something, have PR reach out to her and help her formulate a statement. Give her time. Create a safe environment for her, but not the black people and other people that were offended by her statements. Give her time.
Yes.
You
So there's like some pretty damning things. I don't know if you want to go through some of like the quotes that I pulled.
Yeah, I do. And I think it's very important. That's one of the main reasons why. Because here's the thing: the 14-minute video, or whatever, I could not finish. I got maybe one third of the way in before I had to turn it off because my blood was boiling. I was in shock that Rachel had to sit through this and was composing herself so well. Good for her. I could not. I would have gone off. I think what's so important is that, and this goes back to the race, deeply rooted racism in America's history. If Rachel had gotten a bit heated, would people be as outraged as they were if she came out the quote unquote the angry black woman or the stereotypical black woman? Thankfully, she, I think, knew what she had to do because she said her blood was boiling and she wanted to call him out on stuff. But she had to water herself down to make sure, and she let him sink himself. But there's so much. For example, the woke police. These are things that he says with his other racist friends and at his kitchen dinner table that he just
100%.
felt like he could say now. These are things that he's been saying his whole life, and it finally came to light now. The woke police. 2018 is not 60 years ago, buddy. Let's get that straight right now. Like I said, give her time, but yet like Rachel Lindsay said, the Rachel right in front of you, you didn't want to give her create a safe environment. Creating a safe environment for a racist allows for racism to occur. Why would I don't understand how that is something you want to do? Here's the biggest thing I want to get across. It is okay. I'm happy that some white people are outraged by this. And I think the biggest thing I want to project and why I want to come on here is that the best thing you can do, I think, as a white person, one of the strongest things you can do if you want to help BIPOC people and just black people in general, is to understand that you will never be able to fully understand the black experience. That's just something you'll never be able to walk in our shoes or walk in someone's shoes that is brown, light brown, black, etc. But to understand, ask questions, and create a healthy dialogue. What he was saying, he was happy that he and Rachel could do was not a healthy dialogue. It was one-sided and it was filled with
Yeah.
microaggressions galore. You know what I mean? And apparently, Rachel said she was not even surprised. He just was doing this because there's no PR, no one to tell him no, and what to edit out.
I agree completely.
It's a hard
It
topic.
is, it is, but I'm happy that we get to discuss it, and I want to say that up front too. Like, I really appreciate you coming on here and talking
Yeah.
about this. Like, I
Thank
wasn't going
you.
to ask you. I don't want to put like undue stress on you, but you
Mm-hmm.
approached me, and I just want to say thanks, Teddy. I always
Mm-hmm.
appreciate
No,
chatting with
thank
you.
you. Thank you for creating a safe environment. But like, I just America is a hot mess in general. But just like it's this show, a lot of kids are watching this
Yeah.
show. This show has been around for so many years, and to some people, this is what they're first gonna see. They're first if they see Chris Harrison, who's the face of the franchise, saying all this stuff, they're gonna model after him. This is not the first
Yeah.
controversy that we've had in the Bachelor for some. Obviously, we know Rachel makes top four because Chris leaked it. So what about Garrett when he was liking trans things? He was liking
Yeah.
school shooting Instagram posts, and they defended him. Becca herself also did it as well, but so did Chris Harrison and Bachelor Nation. And it's not the first. Like we just because someone wins or goes far, we cannot just give them a pass. We have to hold these people accountable, and it's just so upsetting. This isn't even the first time this has happened. I'm just happy that it's finally seems like it's hitting home for people because you saw the host point blank end period for 14 minutes plus defend actions.
100%. Yeah, I think you point out some really, really key points that I'll reiterate. Like, he is the face of the company. He is the one mainstay throughout every single season. He's the face He's an
Producer.
executive
Yeah.
producer, 100%. When he
Yeah.
said in that interview, "Oh, I haven't talked to Rachel since that came out," I was like, "That's fucking bullshit. There's 0% chance that you haven't talked to Rachel McConnell or whatever the fuck her name is, racist Rachel, because
Yeah.
like you have to. You have so many hands in so many pots in Bachelor Nation. Like that is just
Yeah. I didn't even think about
like
that.
that's
That's true.
just a lie, and that's like scapegoating this. So Rachel has a podcast on the Ringer Network called Higher Learning with Van Lathan, and she talked about how he had no publicist or no production. Apparently, I didn't know this because obviously we're not in like media. Usually they're on like the call or like in the earpiece or whatever, and they'll say
Okay.
stuff like change the subject or like whatever if you're like going into weird territory. And she's like, we had none of that on call. He continued the conversation for 14 minutes. Only a snippet of it went like was broadcasted on TV. The rest was just posted on YouTube. And one concerning, like extremely concerning part from this was she said that after the interview, they didn't talk because he didn't know that he had said such awful things. And then once he started to get public backlash, that's when he reached out to her and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry. Like, is everything okay?" And I think that that was like, again, so upsetting to hear because the audience has been asking for Bachelor Nation to step it up. And yeah, when you have the face of Bachelor Nation and like honestly the key player in this entire franchise not understand or do any of this work, it's just it's really hard to hear.
Well, because Bachelor in the past has shown these cutter couples, in my opinion, and I honestly, I as much as I was uh, apprehensive, thought they may be forgetting
Yeah.
somewhere, showing the Tasha and Ivan conversation, showing Tasha's love story, the first biracial lead, but it's just like I said, it's not a trend.
Yeah.
Um, and I just want to make something very clear for anyone that may be apprehensive or cautious of what we're talking about today. Those old Miss parties were banned in 2015. I looked it up. So what they were doing was illegal and banned. The sorority did it anyways, but they weren't just girls having fun, as Chris Harrison tried to push it off as. It just like it was. I was in shock. It's the easiest way I can say it. I was in shock to see someone so openly,
Defending.
uh, yeah, and excusing the behavior of this person.
Some of the things he said she was at the sorority party and that's it. Like when Rachel brought up the theme of like this Old South party, and she was like, they're celebrating the Old South, and she was like, if I was there, what would I be doing?
Yeah, him asking her, "Who are you?" She's a black woman, like she said, a black woman. She was offended. I, I was like, "Who the?" She even said it the best way, basically asking her, "Who the heck are you?" to ask her for an apology or ask her for a statement. And it just what's not clicking, and this
Yes.
is a huge disconnect, is that people just want equal rights, and like I said, I'm just sometimes I was just speechless. Like I had today during lunch, I was making my lunch, and I forced myself to watch the whole video,
Teddy.
and it was
I
horrible.
know. I'm really sorry. That's a good point also to just bring up is that if you want to watch the video, obviously by all means, but also they're like definitely trigger warning and content warning. Like it can be like really harmful if you're from the BIPOC community. So yeah,
Mhm,
just take care of yourself if you choose to watch it.
mhm,
I think another piece that I just want
mhm.
to like highlight from this video is he was like, "Excuse me, Rachel, like is it a good look in 2018 or is it not a good look in 2021?" And like that's like another thing that I just want to highlight of like just how I feel like white people think that this has just like all come to light in like the last year. And
Mhm.
just like to put a call out to like really like educate yourself on the historical and ongoing oppression that faces the BIPOC community, because that was also really alarming that he could excuse that behavior in 2018, but now he knows better in 2021. Like, that's unexcusable.
Mm-hmm. And these are things that many Americans and many racist people say around their kitchen table. I won't mention the past president's name, but someone that allowed that behavior to come to light and be shown outside of people's households now. This is something that Chris Harrison has a son. This is something I'm not saying that I'm pushing it on him, but I'm saying these are things he's probably said around the kitchen table. Beliefs that he has. Just you bringing up that he didn't text Rachel after that interview until after he got backlash shows that he wasn't even aware of what he said. No apology, nothing. And I'm happy we got the unedited raw truth, because honestly, they would have gone back to maybe having a sprinkle of maybe a POC lead every few seasons, and we never would have known until the next controversy comes.
Yeah.
What is it gonna take for Bachelor Nation to take a hit in some way, shape, or form?
I don't know. So, like, that's a great question. So, Chris releases an apology statement. It's the typical, like, notes app apology that we expect from celebrities.
The first one,
the
right?
first one,
Mhm.
yeah. Just, like,
Yeah.
the buzzwords about, like, learning and listening and stuff like that, and apologizing.
Mhm.
So take that for what it is. It's not my like apology to accept.
Him saying that there's no sane people online. So like I almost want to comment, oh, the people you called crazy, or oh, we don't accept your apology.
It's
Like,
also like literally your show thrives because there's people online talking about it. So shut the fuck up, Chris Harrison. Like, so he was like saying that there's like woke police just like trying to like trap people. It's like, no, we are just looking for people to be accountable for their actions, because again, people want to support people that are good people that reflect their values and their views. The community is asking for accountability. The community isn't trying to.
we're tired, yeah. And here's the thing, you've now brought in people that with Tayshia's season and Rachel's season that aren't just a bunch of the same people that are from the same place. You know, Bachelor Nation goes, this show airs in Canada. Just like you, this show airs. The Bachelor Nation is Bachelor Australia, Bachelor probably Mexico, Bachelor this, that, and the third. You know,
we've talked about this like even on the podcast. Like, the reach of Bachelor Nation is huge, and I think that's why again it's so important to really reflect on what's happened this week, because predominantly the viewers of The Bachelor are white and like from like I don't know, middle America. I don't know. Like, that's another part that's like so bothersome, because they could just take this opportunity really like and literally move the needle. Like, they have such an opportunity to change people's minds about like racism, and they've absolutely
influence.
They have so much influence, and they've absolutely
Yes.
squandered it. Every single chance they have gotten, they have gone in the opposite direction.
So it's very upsetting. It's just shocking that I didn't think we would be. It's shocking, but it almost isn't shocking at the same time, which is not okay. Because immediately when I thought like of Rachel, I just thought, oh, Garrett 2.0. Like, who's going to be the next Garrett and Rachel?
Yeah, 100%.
So something needs to change. I think we're gonna talk about Chris Harrison's second statement and why he needs to continue going in that direction.
Yeah, so I just also want to point out that like he's talking about like cancel culture and stuff, and I watched the video on YouTube, and literally the like little after part that says like subscribe was done by fucking Billy Bush. So I was like,
yeah, I noticed that too.
Like, I was like, okay, so obviously it's not real because fucking Billy Bush is back. Like, I was just like,
yeah, I noticed that too today when it's so funny.
I was
like, oh, he's back.
So I'm like, okay, so extra hired Billy Bush back. Like, fuck. So it's just cyclical. Like, it literally is. So yeah, so not everyone, I shouldn't say that. So the people that I follow that are part of Bachelor Nation, are demanding more. There was a petition started. You can look it up and sign it. It's on change.org. It's like, just look up Fire Chris Harrison. People are asking for the network to respond, and he releases a second statement and says that he will be taking a step back from the franchise and not hosting after the final rose. What do you think about that?
Uh, it's a step. I want more. I want more. I want I don't want band-aids on situations. I want permanent solutions. And his he is very deep rooted in the franchise. He's not just a host. He's a producer. He is the face. And I think you need to just leave. I think you need to leave. And I think that the network needs to figure out some things, some changes. Because here's my thing: what scares me and what I know is that Chris Harrison is not the only person involved in Bachelor that feels this way. There's no way that, although you're at the top, one of the people at the top, that you're the only person that thinks that way. So I think some other people need to be exposed, need to figure out what's going on there and toss it out. Because I personally am done with the show. I know I've spoken to you about this one on one. I'm done. Like I said, I only watch once a year, anyways, for the Bachelorette to begin with, really, because I find the Bachelor so boring that they pick and the whole women fighting. But I have no desire to watch a show. It just feels like I'm spitting in my own by Pac's face if I sit there and just do that. I have no desire. How many more chances do I have to give this show?
I won't be continuing to watch this season. I think I'm
Mm-hmm.
out. I've said this so many times, like, I've been just tired of the show recently anyways, and I think I don't want to support people, and I think that this is something that I need to do, just like a little review of who I'm promoting and following
Yeah,
and supporting online.
I think it's important to hold people accountable. Hold your friends accountable. Hold the people you're around accountable. Hold yourselves accountable. That is such a huge thing too. Create these uncomfortable conversations. It's all about how you approach things. You know what I mean? Because I want to say something too. Matt, I don't. Matt has barely said anything. That doesn't sit right with me. It also points to her probably winning the dang season or being an endgame person. Why hasn't he spoken up about it? And Matt doesn't seem like the kind of person. I know he's getting a lot of crap, but to even really speak on it, and that bothers me. That the women, and because you see, Tasha's men have put out a statement. I think you said Matt's women had put out a statement.
Yeah.
Hello, first POC male lead. Where are you?
And I hope that it would be tough if he was like contractually obligated, because Rachel was talking about how Rachel Lindsay was talking about how Rachael Kirkconnell or whatever isn't
Mhm.
contractually obligated to not say anything. But do you think Matt is?
I think they're he could release something in some way. He could talk to them and like figure out a statement, to some degree. Because at this point, people want to know. Like you're gonna watch a love story where Chris Harrison leaked that she makes it pretty far
Yes.
because he said that she isn't, at the women tell all. So it's just like,
Yes, and another thing, just like bouncing back to the Chris Harrison, we've got so much to talk about, but like,
mhm.
there's just so much to unpack here. Basically, he insinuated that Rachel dating Matt means she's not
Oh
racist.
yes.
What did you think about
Oh
that?
yeah. I My jaw dropped as I was eating my chicken tender. Like I just, I was like, "Do you hear?" I was like, "Do you hear yourself right now?" It makes me wonder when the PRs are around that how much they stop him from saying, and the fact that this man didn't think he said anything wrong. Uh, that he's been allowed to go trotting around saying this stuff for how
Yeah.
long? It just thankfully I never really was a big fan of him anyways, but I can't even look at him without rolling my eyes and saying get off the screen. The fact that he has to still host the rest of the season because it's taped ticks me off
Yeah.
personally. Like, so I don't want to see him. I have no desire to watch.
Yeah, neither do I. There's an interesting Instagram account that I follow called @Bachelor Data, and they report on like a bunch of statistics on the TV show.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch. So some of the stats that I found were interesting is 65% of the cast of the current season identify as women of color, yet they only get 46% of the screen time. So it shows just like how it's at every level. It's at the Chris Harrison level, it's at the editor level, it's at the producer level, that things really do need to change.
That's a very interesting stat. Wow.
The other interesting stat I found is racist Rachael. Her numbers are climbing, her Instagram followers. So one thing we can do if you're a white ally in Bachelor Nation is follow, and I'm going to do this because I don't really follow any of the contestants because I just like don't like that content. But one thing you can do is follow the BIPOC contestants, because the show looks at who is like performing well on social media and who they should bring back for other seasons. Not that I even want to put anyone in like through filming another season of The Bachelor, but like that's something I think you can do to support these women, because the producers and stuff look at these numbers, and typically the white women of these series come out with like 1 million Instagram followers, and like the BIPOC girls get way less, like way less. And then they can use the excuse of like, well, they're not as liked or they're not as influential and
fan favorite or popular.
They're not as popular, so we'll just continue showing the white cast. And I think, yeah, that's something small.
You brought up a really interesting thing about Rachael, whatever her name is, the racist Rachael gaining followers. Recently, a country singer was caught saying the N-word on video, and his stats have gone up like 200 or something percent. And, things like that. Why is that? It's because look at the audience that you're attracting.
Yeah, and it's an audience that I want to opt out of, that I know I cannot. I have the privilege of opting out of, but like I don't want to participate anymore. I don't want to support this network, because I think like part of this process is like, yeah, you're like you said before, holding yourself accountable. Like if you mess up, like learning and not repeating the mistake. And I just feel like this show has shown that they can't do that at all.
I agree. Change starts from the top. Let's get it done.
#fire Chris Harrison.
Yeah. Honestly.
I think another thing that I just want to highlight that people can do to learn more about what happened this week, and I don't know, just anything that you can do to like if you didn't have issues with Chris Harrison's statement, how you can like learn to see why it's wrong. There's been some really good podcasts that I listened to this week. The Black Charettes, Victoria and Michaela, 2 Black girls, Natasha and Justine, the Higher Learning podcast with Rachel, Lindsay, and Van Lathan.
Great one.
Those were all really good podcasts that have all spoke on this. I've queued up Clickbait with Tasha, like you mentioned before. I'll probably listen to it after we record.
That's a good listen.
There's just so much you can listen to and figure out how you want to proceed as a part of Bachelor Nation.
And I do want to thank you, Torry, for doing your part and for offering even resources. Like it's a lot to, doing a podcast, but you're also giving the resources to people that maybe want to know and want to know why it's not okay, etc. What he said and why people are mad. And let's not be part of the problem, people. Let's be part of the solution.
I'm always happy to message with people. Like if people want to talk about this, like I feel bad that we so often rely on Black, Indigenous, people of color for education and to discuss these issues. So do some research yourself or talk to your white friends about how you're gonna hold yourself accountable and hold them accountable.
No. Yeah, thank you for that. It's exhausting always having to be the person to say something, you know what I mean? So any little bit for sure helps.
I have a small little platform here and I want to use it,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone does have a platform, and that's with your friends and family at home. So, or social media, people that follow you on social media. So I would just like to offer that as like a way that you can do your part and learn to be anti-racist. And like, it's an ongoing process. It's something that you have to work on every day, but just you can really make change in your small little social circle. So even if you think you can't, like, you
Yes.
really really can. So that's just what I would offer to the white listeners of RTVP, is to step it up.
No.
Is there anything else you
Yeah.
want to say, Teddy?
No, thank you for having me on. And like I said, I'm open down for discussions as well. That's how you get better. Not the Chris Harrison kind of discussions. But just like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing some change because we all love to see love stories, but at what expense, you know? So thank you for having me. Thank you for using your platform for good.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it so much. I'm so glad you reached out. I'm so glad that we can have these conversations together
Mhm.
offline, and that you want to share your viewpoint and your experiences and your gifts with the RTBB community. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful for our friendship, and I love you, and I hope that we can podcast it again about
Yes.
like fun shit.
Yes. Love you too, Queen. And we love Tasha and Rachel as well.
Follow them, support them, and we can all like learn to do better. And this is just like a very small
Yes.
step. I know it
Yeah.
seems frivolous sometimes when we're talking about Bachelor Nation, but like, it's huge, and it dictates like society and pop culture and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Huge thing.
thanks again so much, Teddy, for coming on. And like I said before, if you want to chat, DMs are always open.